Now, there's increasing pressure on the government today after a petition calling for the meningitis B vaccination to be offered to all children has become the most signed online petition in parliamentary history, attracting over 680,000 signatures to date.
Well, the petition comes after 2-year-old Faye Burdett lost her brave battle to meningitis on Valentine's Day, bringing the terrifying disease into the headlines once again.
Well, one father who is firmly backing this campaign is former England rugby player Matt Dawson, whose 2-year-old son Sami was left fighting for his life after he contracted meningitis just 3 weeks ago. So this is very, very recent for you. Thank you for. How is he today?
He's doing remarkably well. He's not walking, being in bed, and because of the cannula and maybe some bits and pieces, his legs aren't working quite as well as we would like, but in himself he's
on the mend. I mean, this is something that, as a parent, it's terrifying. It's the thing that you're most scared of happening, and you hope that you notice the signs when they come along. What happened to Sami? Because it was just after his 2nd birthday, wasn't it?
I wish that I had your concern previous to it, because you know, I have to put my hands up. I was a little bit ignorant to it all. I didn't realise really how dangerous meningitis could be, and I think that's part of the problem. He was a bit ill. He was a bit grumpy. He was like he had a bit of a fever. We've all seen it, you know, hundreds of times with our own kids and other kids. And he had cold hands, but was really sweaty. He had a seizure, but he had seizures before we'd been to the hospital, and it was all the things that really he had a virus.
Pointed to his head, say he had a sore head.
Yeah, I mean, you could tell he was a little bit crabby.
Rash?
Well, I mean, that was the key one for us, because we went through the day and we were very lucky that it sort of started in the morning and went through the day rather than through the night, because we wouldn't have known. But it got to sort of mid-afternoon, and my wife Carolyn said, oh, do you know what, he's got a bit of a rash here as well. It might be heat rash. So I phoned up my doctor, and he couldn't get there for an hour, so I said, listen, just go to A&E, just go. And so we got in there, got in the car. Traffic was terrible, and the nearest hospital was going with the terrible traffic, and the furthest hospital was going back into town to Chelsea and Westminster. I mean, it was that sort of a sliding doors moment that it only took us 20 minutes to get there, and it probably would have taken us an hour to go to the other.
Every moment critical.
Every single minute is so crucial.
And within an hour of being at the hospital, they'd put him into a coma.
Into a induced coma. Well, it's one of those, as a parent and as a former sportsman, you know when there's a knock and when there's an injury. And when we went into the cubicle, within I'd say about a minute, there were 3 or 4 medical personnel, and I was just feeling there's something really quite serious going on here. I had to take my eldest out of the room, because they were then putting lines in and antibiotics, and then they moved into another area, and then they had to tell us that he was going to be heavily sedated.
And you said you sat with your eldest, is it Alex, your eldest, and you're sitting opposite a restaurant opposite the hospial, feeling completely helpless. The worst feeling in the world.
Your mind, as a parent, you go into that organisation. It was sort of fight or flight. Really, right? Let's deal with what I've got to deal with here, and we needed to look after Alex because it was very serious. And I went to phone one of my best mates, and I got about 2 words out and started to break down. I said, listen, I'll text you, and he helped me out with it, because I was just, my mind was absolutely all over the place.
And he was so lucky, because 90% of people that contract this strain of meningitis will go on to lose a limb or a digit, and he has come away from this, and he's, you know, not quite there yet, but he's definitely unscathed in that way.
Our doctor told us exactly that, Holly, and you know, again, you feel like you're just about through it, and then when you hear statistics like that, and of course I've read up on it, and I'm constantly looking at my phone as to what else I can learn about the disease, it puts it into perspective that he's got a few big scars on him, but you know, there'll probably be a badge of honour when he's older.
Well, at that time, the irony was that little Faye had gone into hospital at the same time, and their parents, different strain of meningitis, but their parents, of course, with a very, very different and tragic outcome.
Well, you know, it was the Tuesday. We got home on the Tuesday, and you have that oh my goodness me, we're home. And Sami had a few smiles and a few words, and we went to bed. And I'd been doing the night shifts at the hospital. I was sleeping on a chair for 2 weeks, so I was just had that moment where I was thinking, this is, oh my goodness me. And then Carolyn was just sort of flicking through all these lovely messages that we were having from friends and family, and saw the piece about Faye, and because there was the time, the sort of timeline was exactly the same, and they went in for the same 2 weeks, and yet this, you know, the outcome was so different. And with her friends, Faye's friends and parents being so brave and putting that picture up, we were just looking at each other thinking, you know, they're by the sort of grace of God, really.